Good afternoon from Newcastle, United Kingdom. Today this is going to be a very small review surrounding the Pure Air Pro long range model from Pure Electric. I preferred this specific device over their other devices because of the 750 watt peak output motor with 500 watt rated average output, the 60 kilometer extended range being the longer range version, and most importantly, the nice wooden deck. As soon as I saw that, that's what I knew I wanted. But ever since then, I'm about just over half a year on now, and this is going to be a quick review on all the problems I've encountered, the customer service from Pure Electric, and in overall how happy I am regarding the scooter. The only issues that I've encountered with the scooter has been with the folding mechanism. The folding mechanism pin here tends to loosen quite a lot. That focus for you, that pin in there tends to loosen very quickly. After quite a while of usage, it starts becoming loose like almost every single journey you take it out on. An easy way to fix that would be to Loctite the pin and rescrew the bolt back into the thread and ensure that it's rigid enough that it doesn't keep working itself out every single time you ride the scooter. Other than that, the only issues I've had has been with punctures. I've decided to keep these pneumatic air-filled tyres because changing to solid tyres is an absolute pain in the backside. The roads here in the UK aren't exactly paved straight. You're bound to, take a couple of bumps on almost every journey, and it makes an absolutely uncomfortable experience. Causes it to be a terrible riding experience anyway for me personally. Now, if you're not competent enough mechanically to be able to upkeep the scooters with regards to punctures, which I recommend that everyone who owns a scooter should always carry tyre levers, the necessary equipment like Allen keys and screwdrivers or whatever required to be able to take the tyres off and do a mobile tyre repair or tyre change or inner tube change, and be able to be on your way and not get stranded whilst you're out on your travels. Keeping the air-filled tyres is extremely important to me. As long as you've got an extra pair of inner tubes, an electric pressure gauged pump, and the competence to be able to change and fit new inner tubes, then you should be fine. That may not be the case for everybody, but that is the case for me. I've definitely had to change a few things on this scooter. The scooter is freshly out of repair. There was cases where the bolts here had stripped upon attempting to extract them. The wooden board had started cracking. The rear mudguard had cracked and snapped from either side at the bolts. Essentially failed, and attempting to change that myself, I ran into an issue with the tail light, and the bolt that fixes the tail light onto the rear mudguard was so rusted was so rusted that I couldn't actually get the bolt off. So I ended up having to try and take the wooden board off to be able to disconnect the tail light and get order a new tail light to put into the rear mudguard and fit in as of new. But having done that, I ended up stripping a couple of the bolts here and a few bolts holding this wooden board to the actual scooter body itself. All that's been replaced. I've got a brand new rear mudguard, brand new rear tail light, 2 brand new tyres on either side of the scooter, brand new wooden board. As having looked at that, the engineers discovered a crack along the wooden board. That is expected with scooters which travel at 15 miles per hour, and your roads not being perfectly paved at all times. These scooters are all tested under ideal riding conditions, and you've never really got ideal riding conditions. They are waterproof scooters, but I would definitely suggest, although waterproof, if you're going to bring your scooter back indoors, to not allow any standing water on the scooter, as that's what's going to make it rust essentially, and that's probably what caused a lot of the seizing and the bolts and the causing of the bolts being stripped. So I would have to recommend that you always, if you're riding your scooter in the wet and in the rain, to wipe it down, make sure you dry it once you're back indoors, and obviously make sure that your tire pressures are upkept, and you're always carrying a mobile tire change or inner tube change kit with you to try and minimize your risk of having any significant problems that's gonna hinder your ability to travel. Other than that, everything's pretty much expected. I've changed the grips. I've decided to keep the air-filled tires regardless of how how often you might need to carry out puncture repairs or inner tube changes. Other than that, I've experienced no issues. It's got excellent climbing ability. Myself, I'm 85 kilograms in weight. This does absolutely perfect. My previous scooter was the Xiaomi Pro Scooter 2, which was excellent, but under a certain incline was definitely struggling for my weight. And this absolutely makes up for that, being rated at 120 kilograms weight capacity. It is able to pull you quite farther and up greater inclines, having the extra 250 watt play with the motor. You can actually hear it kick in when it's required, to try and boost you and keep you up at speed. It doesn't really exceed 15 mile an hour. I don't really see why you would need a non-restricted scooter in the UK or anywhere else in Europe where there's going to be quite a lot of heavy traffic, although these scooters are not designed, and I'm not going to say designed, they're not made and sold under the pretense that they should be used in public. They should be used in private land at all times, but obviously that's not a guarantee. The company does do its part, and you actually have to sign a waiver on the receipt of your purchase of the scooter, declaring your acceptance of the fact that you're accepting that the company's made you fully aware that the scooter is not for public use and only for private use, and it's actually illegal to use it publicly. Saying that, having used it publicly, I've had zero issues. The only thing you get is people looking at you funny, and the odd person who has an egotistical problem attempting to implore that onto you, simply because of the fact that you're not abiding by the law. Therefore they feel it necessary for them to step in and do or say whatever they wish, in order to try and stop you from riding, essentially. The only issues I've had was with pedestrians. Never have really had an issue with police officers or any other members of the civil service stopping me or saying anything. It's not really been an issue. As long as you abide by the laws and local traffic laws, cycle laws, then everything should be okay. But personally, I've mainly just had problems with pedestrians being super entitled, prepared to walk 3 people shoulder to shoulder down a 2-foot path, but then are going to look at you funny for ringing your bell and asking them to move out the way so that you can be on your way, as if they own the place. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, the legislation here at the minute is on their side. If you were to get into an altercation and they did able to keep you in restraint and call the police, they would probably more than likely confiscate your device. But I've never actually experienced that thus far. Although I do have to say that it is extremely expensive in upkeep, having to keep up with punctures if anything fails on the device. Although nothing has, I've not experienced anything serious. The most expensive repair I've had to do was the wooden board, and that was £80, which is completely understandable. But again, if you make sure there's no standing water when you bring the scooter indoors, it should be fine. There should be no rust, no corrosion, as long as you anti-seize grease all the bolts, which I would say is the 2 wheels, the motor wheel and the front wheel. Just unscrew them, anti-seize grease the bolts, re-screw them. Same with the handlebar bolts, the 4 bolts holding the handlebars together, and possibly these 4 bolts for the rear mudguard, as highly likely they're going to be the ones that you're going to open either pretty soon or at some point throughout your journey of owning this particular scooter anyway. I'm not too sure about their other models. Sorry, I don't know what the hell I'm saying about their other models. But overall, perfect scooter, excellent power, perfect for my weight. A couple of issues here and there, like fitting a phone holder. There's not very much space on the handlebars, and it's awkward because of the USB housing here for charging, which is extremely useful, but when trying to put a phone mount on, it gets in the way and obscures the screen, which obviously you need because of the odometer, and obviously this side you need to be able to use the bell, which is rendered useless due to the phone holder currently. And again, I would recommend a travel bag, preferably waterproof. Again, no standing water. Wipe everything down, make sure everything has anti-seize grease on it. Make sure you Loctite your folding mechanism pin. That should stop it from, loosening every single time you ride the thing. If you're not competent with punctures and inner tube repairs, I suggest solid tyres. They're extremely hard to get on and off. I do definitely recommend, if you do have a pure electric branch nearby, go and get it done. Buy them professionally. It's going to cost quite a lot more, but there is £40 yearly labour packages you can get, which covers all the labour for any repairs throughout the year. Having that pass, you just pay for the parts and they carry out all the labour for free. That saves you massive amount of money. That saved me a massive amount of money. The only other thing is there's only one other review on YouTube, and his scooter has actually snapped here at the frame, and that's due to the folding mechanism. His pin, clearly he hadn't come to the conclusion of Loctiting it and making it rigid again. There's no problem with movement in this, and there's no problem with movement in this, but when it locks, it needs to be completely rigid. And unfortunately, when it's not, you get quite a lot of wobble and play in the actual stem here in the head, which results in you having to actually, when the stem is straight, putting pressure on the stem to keep it upright and stop it from wobbling. And what that does is puts too much pressure on here, and with significant weight, these are tested with, the average man weighing at about 65 to 75 kilogram. If you're around 85, anywhere to 100, 110 kilogram, then this area of the scooter comes under a lot of pressure, especially if you're going up and down curbs, if you're going, if you're doing like mini jumps. I've done all this type of stuff on this scooter, and it's held up, but I definitely do not recommend it. As you see, his review, his has actually snapped. It'll bend out so far and then actually give way and snap, which then would be, irretrievable. You would need a brand new scooter or a new body, which I couldn't imagine it being very cost effective, as the labour would require the entire thing to be taken apart, and obviously if you don't have these so-called service packages that I've already explained, then it's going to cost a massive amount of money. In overall, you have to be somewhat mechanically competent. You have to be ready to be able to, change tyres, change inner tubes, be able to do some hands-on work yourself, like the Loctite in the pin. I tend to WD grease any folding mechanisms, not too much, just a little bit, so you don't hear any squeaks. There's a lot of plastic on this bike. Luckily, so far I've not heard anything other than having the repairs done. That was the only thing, and that was uncovered of one single repair that I was doing. Everything else was uncovered, and the majority of it was just down to stripping bolts. And the only other thing that was genuinely serious was obviously the rear fender cracking and the wooden board actually having a crack in it upon inspection by the mechanics over at Pure Electric. But everything was fixed fairly cheap. It's a £750 scooter. The invoice that I was sent over was about £135 after asking them to also include a fresh front tyre, as I have some form of OCD. I hate having them different percentages of wear and tear. I want to make sure they're both at the same amount of wear roughly, even though the one with the motor on it always tends to wear out quicker. Brought it to about £150 altogether. After paying the invoice, I received the scooter, I would say not even 3 or 4 days after paying the invoice. So overall, the customer service has been excellent. The scooter itself has been excellent. The power of it's been excellent. I've had no complaints. Obviously it's very important, you know, you maintain tire pressure. Having an electric pump which can, you know, read the pressure of tires is extremely important. A portable one preferably, so that, you know, you can carry a spare tire or spare inner tubes if necessary, to be able to, you know, keep yourself going on the go. And if you do encounter any problems or any punctures, that you're able to actually fix it. From the motor itself, I've had no issues. There's been no noise, no extra auditory noises anyway, anything that's unusual. Everything's completely expected. It does make a slight sound, but that's expected. I'm a heavier person. It doesn't make a sound that would, you know, otherwise be annoying or noticeable enough to distract you. Other than that, that's pretty much my experience. I've had a 5-star customer service experience. All the emails I've sent, they've replied to. Any and every question I've had, they've responded to with absolute, you know, absolute sincerity to any issue that I've had, including, you know, anything that was covered under warranty, you know, wasn't included on the invoice. A lot of things they're done for free. For example, the actual rear fender failing, the fender was actually for free. They actually sent me that out themselves. But other than that, as long as you're prepared to maintain the scooter, as you can see, I've got brand new grips on here. You will have to change things around, you know, to suit your needs and your how you know, require the device to perform under daily usage. Not everyone's going to use it like I do. I'm a pretty heavy user of my scooter. The scooter gets used every day, and I've had it just about over half a year, and it's done in or around 2,000 miles already. The Xiaomi Pro 2 that I had previous to this had actually done 6,000 miles, and that was with maintenance of having one motor change due to stripping the bolts on the motor in that scooter as well, because you couldn't actually change the front tire without taking the actual motor apart. It made it extremely difficult due to the weather protective washers that they had in place in the actual motor itself. So that fixed it with this scooter, and since then I've not really looked back since. This scooter has been my go-to every day. That one stays as a backup. I've been using that until today, where I've just got this back, and I am extremely happy with their level of work, and the repair that they've carried out is absolutely perfect. I'm loving that brand new wooden board. No wear, no tear. The other one had a couple of scratches on it here and there, even though it is only half a year old. Like I said, I use the scooter quite a lot. I've definitely tested its limits, but as long as you follow everything I've said, which is anti-seize greasing anything and everything that looks like it will need requiring opening at some point, Loctiting the folding mechanism pin, and as well as carrying a puncture repair kit or the ability to, you know, change a puncture or an inner tube on the go, then you should be okay. I recommend the service package with Pure Electric. I recommend you get any repairs done professionally. If you can do it yourself, but it may lead you down, you know, the rabbit hole of leading yourself into other repairs, and then it gets to a point where you can no longer do it, and it's at a level where you're going to have to get it sent out, either if you've got a local branch, or get in touch with Pure Electric and they can arrange for a courier to come and collect the scooter and have it repaired that way, which is what I've had done. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the day. I hope that was an informative enough review for you. I try to keep it under 20 minutes as well as I could, due to upload times. If there's any questions, please pop them down below. I'll make sure to answer everything as quick as I can and efficiently as I can, to the best of my ability. Yeah, have a lovely day. Bye.